will begin in just a moment. Everyone, and welcome to the Administration and Finance and Recreation and Parks Committee meeting for March 12th, 2024. We'll acknowledge all of our elected officials who are present. Mayor Kurt Wilson just had to step away for a moment. We'll be back shortly. Councilmember Christine Hall, Councilmember Alan Sells, Councilmember David Johnson, Councilmember Sarah Beeson, Councilmember G. Lee Hills, Councilmember William Morthland. The purpose of committee meetings are for the city departments to convey information to the mayor and city council and discuss initiatives listed on the published agenda and provide updates of vital information essential to the operation of city government. By ordinance, the committee consists of the mayor and council as well as the city administrator, and the city administrator serves as chair of committee meetings. This is a public meeting, but not a public hearing. Therefore, while we certainly welcome members of the public, we do not take public comments or questions during committee meetings. Public comments or questions are taken every second and fourth Monday at city council meetings and on the fifth Monday in open forum. We do encourage all of our residents to engage our online platforms, and if you have any questions or need information, please contact our city staff. We encourage everyone in the viewing audience also to visit the city website for meetings, events, and departmental information. If you have any questions or concerns, please provide those directly to us, or utilize the city web service portal to report those matters. Also, please visit Roswell365.com for a calendar of events. The first item on the agenda this evening is the approval of the minutes for the Administration and Finance and Recreation and Parks Committee meeting of February 13th, 2024. We'll entertain a motion. Motion by Councilmember Johnson. Do we have a second? Second by Councilmember Morthland. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All right, that passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Item number 2, as listed on the agenda, under administration, consideration for approval of the de-accession and redesign of the Roswell. All right. Mr. Malone, Mr. Bunchen. All right. All right, thank you. Please.
Of course. Good evening, everyone, Mayor and Council. Thanks so much for having us. We were asked to take an examination of the Roswell mosaic located just behind the Cultural Arts Center, and to look at what kind of design implications there might be to a redesign. We did look at not just the health of the mosaic itself, but considered the health of the overall site, and looked to create sort of more of a placemaking effort, more of a transform it to a better experience for the citizens of Roswell as the back door to City Hall. To refresh everyone's memory, this is Forest Street here, and there's this large retaining wall that acts as a retention area from this large hillside. The mosaic only occupies this small portion. It was completed in 2008 as a community creative process. Here are the existing conditions. Unfortunately, it is what I would classify as a public safety issue. There are a lot of sharp ends. It is detaching from the wall. And because it was a community mural at the time, it's also made of pieces like broken pottery, some different broken mosaic components that really can't be salvaged. The entire piece would have to be not just removed, but then also completely rebuilt from the beginning. Again, being portion of the wall, it also wouldn't be a wise consideration to just do the portion. You'd want to do the entire area of the wall, and then that still wouldn't transform the site proper. So what we did in a further design effort was working with the city's landscape architecture designer, Jay Reisinger. He made this beautiful planting plan, which includes, and I've got another slide that shows a little bit of a close-up on this, the addition of 16 new trees along the crest of the hill here, as well as creating a planting zone, new grasses here, and really beautify this entire space and environment. And this is all with funding from the tree fund. What we proposed after we examined everything from murals to mosaics to different scenic treatments, and actually what we think will make the best condition for the future is to remove the mosaic and apply thin brick to the surface. This will create that experience. It'll almost look like a ruin, as if it were embedded in the hillside, but then that can take further evolution as this site transforms to include public artwork on the hillside, dramatic lighting if you wanted to look at that later for moonlighting, or even signage treatments directly onto the wall surface. So this is a brief outline of the budget that would be out of existing dollars that we have. So art around dollars would be used, as it is literally the art around the city of Roswell, to remove the existing mosaic and apply the thin brick, and then the matching funds from the Roswell Tree Fund, all existing dollars, resulting in a total project of about $50,000 to $55,000. And that is the entirety of the proposal at this time. So Roswell Arts Fund, as the designated arts agency, does recommend the piece be deassessed, as it is currently neither of sufficient safety nor artistic merit, and the best treatment to evolve the entire site would be to proceed with the planting plan and thin brick. Take any comments or questions?
Thank you, sir. Yes, Councilmember Hills.
Thank you, Mr. Knighton, and thank you, Mr. Buchan. I want to speak to the deaccession first, and just say that this isn't a sexy word, and I don't know what kind of connotations it has, or if most people even know what that means, but we've grown up in this the city as big boys and big girls now, where we actually have a collection of art, and I think that this is really important to set the tone of how we inventory our art items, whether it's sculpture or mural or mosaic or whatever it may be, and when those items may have run their course, or it's time to switch out for a new effort as the city continues to grow. I think it's really important that we have a proper and formal process by which we move things along, whether that means it's a sculpture and we've outgrown it in that space, or it's time to do something new. Maybe we sell something, so we deassess that so that it's removed formally from the inventory, and then we can do something else with it. So I'm in full support of that. I think that this project in particular is really unique. I think it took, how many years, Elon, do you remember, to get this off the ground? Like 11?
Yeah.
It was 11 or 14 years. I'll stick with 11 to actually do it. And there was a lot of community input and support and help and participation, which is really cool. And it's been enjoyed. And in my opinion, it's run its course. And of course, having an expert here take a look at that, it's falling off the wall, literally. I think we've had enough negative press on retaining walls and detention walls in the city. So to make that super obvious as a retaining wall for a detention area, or retention, I forget what you call this one, is a missed opportunity. So doing something that makes this really fit into our historic area by putting the thin set brick, it'll not be identical to the development across the street, but it'll complement that with brick, our historic brick. And I think that is a huge piece of getting things right in the city. So we've taken an old dog and dress him up, dress her up, whatever. It'll be very attractive. And then take out, my understanding, Mr. Buchan, help me out, I think removing the stobs that are in there, the trees that the tops have broken out and they're dead. So removing those, putting in new trees, and then having opportunities to do some sort of art installation in that space, depending on what we feel like in the city and what we get direction from folks that are more skilled in that arena than all of us regular city folks. So I really, really like that. We've talked to quite a few people in the community that live across the street and up and down the street, and they're very excited about it. I'm hoping this will actually launch some interest in the possible goat trails over there turning into formal trails that we can add to our mileage in the city at some point. I know that's not on our radar now, but I'd like to talk about it because I think it would be highly enjoyable. And I do think that this will definitely be an uptick in the visual experience as you go through there. So it won't be, oh, look, it's a mosaic falling in. It'll just feel right. It'll look pretty. And the landscaping will be very rich, and it offers us a palette or a platform where we can do some artistic experimenting and implementation. So I'm in full support of this, and I really appreciate all your hard work on this. Thank you.
Mayor Wilson.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Alon and Lee, I just want to say thank you, Alon. I want to say thank you, Lee, for your leadership over the last 2 years of really being very intentional, I think, and displaying consistent wisdom in what you're doing with the arts program for the city of Roswell and how you are, I think, looking at it from a long-term perspective and a comprehensive perspective. And I think this is another good example that, just because you have something doesn't mean you can't improve it. And that often is those become sacred cows and become dangerous political fodder in a town like ours, city like ours. And I really appreciate y'all's kind of consistent leadership just to keep figuring out, like, what's the best thing to do. And if you're both lovers of art and perpetuators of having more art in our city and finding ways to do that, but I think doing that with wisdom and discretion and in keeping with what I think the overwhelming majority of people in Roswell want, which is they want art. But they want great art, they want good art, they want smart art, and I don't think they want special interest art. And this is another example, I think, of just being wise. So I really appreciate your efforts, Lon, and yours, Lee, because you guys have really been at the tip of the spear on this and continue to. So thanks for what you're doing here. Great idea, good stuff, very logical, and it checks a lot of boxes as well.
All right. Councilmember Hills, I believe, had a comment. Councilmember Hills.
I also want to say that the painted utility boxes, which are unrelated but related, is a perfect example of the communication that I've had with Roswell Arts Fund, specifically through Mr. Buchan. And I have constantly handed him newspapers and things online and say, you see this one? We don't want to do this. This is hideous. This looks like it was painted with a foot, things like that, where we have really raised the bar and have high expectations. We have a very educated residency here. And our residents and visitors enjoy art. Sometimes people don't know they enjoy it. They just know they're having a good time and the setting is right. It feels good, it makes them happy, and they just think it's because they're standing next to Councilmember Morthland. It turns out the setting was beautiful. And so, yeah, he's pretty beautiful too. But this is a different approach, in my opinion, than some other cities, and I won't even mention because it doesn't matter. But some other cities are like, oh, that city has it, so we're going to have it. And that city did this, so we're going to do that. And I've been beaten up Mr. Buchan about this. I'm like, we don't have to do what everybody else does. So going out of the box with this type thing as a new way to express art in the city that complements the surroundings, it features our historic character, and it does have a feeling of security and enjoyment. Another thing that I'm going to give a plug right now is the Chef Series coming up, which is very artistic, the culinary arts. So that'll be coming up later this year, but we're doing some things that are cutting edge and not the usual stick a sculpture out, which I'm not anti-sculpture, I'm pro-sculpture, but I want to be careful and deliberate. And I know that folks that are not as interested in art or think they don't like art, I don't want to give them an excuse to hate it. And and I want to be sure that we're careful. And I think this is a perfect project to exemplify how we can do things in an artistic manner in the city that don't look like the typical art. So I'm excited about this.
Councilmember Beeson.
I completely understand that the current art as it exists is dilapidated and completely deconstructing it before our eyes. Also very supportive of the additional plantings and appreciate the creative incorporation of our tree fund use in that area, especially being public property. I do have concerns, though, about removing a visual art or public art piece without a hard and fast plan for replacing that. So at this point, do you have a timeline or a proposal for what, if any, visual art will be replacing the mosaic when it's removed in that spot? With the understanding that the mosaic will be replaced with a thin brick set, but will there be any kind of visual art replacement moving forward?
And thank you for the question. We did look at a number of visual directions besides just the thin brick. So we looked at murals, we actually looked at vinyl applications or scenic applications, looking at vacuum form systems to even from a theme park direction, if you will, what that would look like in different scenic treatments. So what I would look at is in the next year to 2 years, the signage system, as we would call it, and whatever that will be for that. And the reason I mentioned signage is something Councilmember Hills and I have talked about before is trompe l'oeil, which is an illusion visual treatment. So if you were to, and these are ideas, that's something that we'll be exploring the next year to 2 years, but if you were to explore a sign that looked like it were a faded, historic, original standing that would then be painted on the brick, there are artists that specialize in it, that would be kind of a visual investigation. And then also we talked about the temporary sculptural installations that can go on the hillside that be, I'm making things up right now, so let's be clear on that, but if you had goat sculptures that were bounding up the hill, or you had lighting inside the trees that highlight the mature treescape, these are artistic investigations. So we're looking at that within the next year to 2 years as possible activation at the site. The reason we want to transform it now and set that stage is right now it's, as it is, it's a visual eyesore, of course, but the overall site then is dragged down by it as well. So this will create the backdrop, the canvas upon which we can then bring those sorts of treatments.
So there is a plan then to incorporate visual aspects moving forward, just not at this juncture?
I would consider the thin brick very much a visual accent and change, dramatic. We did look at the signage immediately, but because there's a larger signage conversation going on, I can't speak to that development system. But I think within a year to 2 year, you'll find, considerations for that space.
So with the understanding that we will be defining those visual aspects within the next 1 year to 2 year for overarching scheme for the rest of the city, I would request moving this forward. If we do move this forward, I assume we have the votes, moving this forward to the council meeting, could we be provided the spec for that thin brick set, or at least loosely what your interpretation of what the space will look like when this comes to council?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes, Councilmember Morthland.
This is probably going to be for Director Malone. Director Malone, can you say how much we have in the tree bank fund now? And is this a new debt that's going on the tree bank fund, or was it always budgeted for something?
This allocation was always budgeted in there and part of that conversation, similar to the items that were already previously discussed with mayor and council. I would have to get back to you on that. Yeah.
Further questions or comments? Mayor Wilson.
I guess to follow up on Lon and Sarah's conversation, yeah, Christina's over here pulling up pictures. I'll put it, so I think yeah, it'd be nice for everybody to have some clarity of what it looks like, what it's gonna look like. I think it's a good idea, because you've got some great pictures here, and it'd be great, we can make sure everybody has clarity on it. Yes?
Yeah. I thought the trees were intended to hide the wall, but you're not, this obviously is not the case, right? So the trees are on the backside, is that what you're doing?
Correct. So we did this mock-up as one of the potential directions, and boy, did we explore a lot, but you're correct. So there will be sort of ornamental, pedestrian-friendly plantings on either side, and then this will be replanted with, I believe it's a feather grass, and then the tree plantings will help that goat path aesthetic. I'm a big fan of those sorts of things along this hillside outside of the drainage area. This was an exploration as to, for example, if we were to cover one end with thin brick and paint another end, if we were to add cornice or other architectural accents, we explored a number of different visual directions. And this sort of begins that, I'm calling it ruin for lack of a better term, but it creates a stage that we can then really have a lot more exhibition possibilities.
Further questions or comments? All right, seeing none, we'll entertain a motion to move this item forward.
Motion to move it forward?
Motion by Councilmember Hills, and second by Councilmember Northland. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All right, that passes unanimously. And we'll note for the record that there are no action items under finance, no action items under recreation and parks. And with that, for this committee, we will seek an adjournment. Motion by Councilmember Beeson to adjourn, second by Councilmember Johnson. All in favor? All right, that passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Give us about 30 seconds to reset, and we will begin the next committee meeting. Good evening. Welcome to the Public Safety and Public Works Committee meeting for March 12th, 2024. The elected body present, Mayor Kurt Wilson, Councilmember Christine Hall, Councilmember Alan Sells, Councilmember David Johnson, Councilmember Sarah Beeson, Councilmember G. Lee Hills, Councilmember William Morthland. I'm Randy Knight, the City Administrator, joined with City Attorney David Davidson and Executive Assistant to the Council, Michelle Miller. The purpose of committee meetings are for city departments to convey information to the mayor and city council and discuss items and initiatives listed on the published agenda, as well as provide updates to the mayor and council of vital information pertaining to city government operation. By ordinance, the committee consists of mayor and council, as well as the city administrator. And the city administrator serves as chair of committee meetings. This is a public meeting, but not a public hearing. Therefore, while the public is certainly welcome to attend, we do not take public comments or questions at committee meetings unless specifically authorized by mayor and council. Public comments or questions are received at regular city council meetings on the second and fourth Monday of each month, as well as the fifth Monday in open forum. We do encourage residents to reach out to the city staff and engage our online platforms if you have any questions or need information. We would encourage everyone also to access Roswell365.com for a calendar of events, as well as the city's web service portal. Roswell app is a mechanism to report issues or concerns. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for the Public Safety and Public Works Committee meeting for February 13th, 2024. Motion by Councilmember Beeson. Second by Councilmember Hills. Any further discussion? All in favor? All right, that passes unanimously. The next item is listed on the agenda under Public Safety Fire. Item number 2, consideration of a text amendment to Chapter 8, Health and Public Safety, Article 8.2, Emergency Management Services of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Roswell. Chief Panino.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. It feels appropriate to bring this before you tonight after the conversation about sharpshooters last night and the exciting potential for a new emergency operations center. So this is a revision of the emergency management ordinance, much like the revision of the fire ordinance that we did last year. This ordinance is very dated and in no way, shape, or form reflects how we operate here at the city of Roswell. So it's time to modernize it. With me tonight, I have Battalion Chief Jason Dooley, who is serving as our interim Division Chief of Emergency Management. So he gets to be a part of this ordinance revision as well. You have the entire revision in your packet, the red line version. There's a lot of new language and strike through, but I'm going to cover it all in one slide here and then answer any questions you may have. So basically, this revision accomplishes a few things. It removes unnecessary language, such as the City of Roswell having an Office of the Director of an Emergency Management, to which my knowledge we haven't had ever. Also language that requires the governor to appoint the Emergency Management Director for the city. It clarifies the staff positions and the responsibilities regarding the day-to-day operations when it comes to emergency preparedness and response. Of course, it adopts more contemporary language, and it outlines, I think, more effectively the powers and the effects of an emergency declaration by the mayor or the mayor pro tem. Some of these include being able to have alternate meeting locations for city meetings, denying public access to parts of the city, executing emergency contracts, suspending procurement policies, code enforcement, allowing temporary dwellings, waiving fees, and closing businesses, to name a few. Another example might be implementing a curfew. This is all pretty standard, and it doesn't necessarily mean that the mayor has to do this, but under a declaration, these are options to be able to respond more nimbly and effectively during a time of disaster. So with that, I'll answer any questions you may have on the revision.
Thank you, Chief Benino. Mayor Wilson.
Chief, just thank you for your work. Jason, good to see you here. Glad you're in the role you're in. Appreciate the work you're doing. Chief, thanks for your great work on this. You know, we've been working on this for a long time. A lot of pieces of policy that you continue to spend a lot of time on improving, and thank you for the work you're doing for the city. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Questions or further comments? All right, seeing none, we'll entertain a motion. Motion by Councilmember Beeson, second by Councilmember Hills. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All right, we'll move this item forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Under Public Safety Police, item number 3, consideration of a resolution to apply for and accept a 2024 State Homeland Security Program grant from the Georgia Emergency Management Agency. Chief Conroy.
All right, good evening, Mayor and City Council. This first item is consideration of a resolution to apply for and accept a 2024 State Homeland Security Program grant from Georgia Emergency Management in the amount of $15,650. This funding would be used to purchase a breaching tool. It's called, the model is the Saint Extra Large, which would be used by the North Fulton SWAT team to access crisis points during critical incident, active shooter incidents, to be able to breach remotely and safely jam doors to create access denial areas for evacuation.
All right, Chief Conroy, thank you very much. Have any questions or comments from the committee? Seeing none, we'll entertain a motion of approval. Motion by Councilmember Beeson, second by Councilmember Morthland. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All right, that passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Item number 4. Consideration to enter into a mutual agreement with the National Parks Service. Chief Conroy.
This is an agreement with between the City of Roswell and the National Park Service to provide call receiving and dispatching services for the National Park Service Police. We've been dispatching for the National Park Service for the past 3 years. We took on their contract. They were previously with the Fulton County Dispatch Center, and we are just now at the contract extension point. The financial impact, the National Park Service would agree to pay the city $41,230.15, and that would increase 3% annually.
All right. Thank you, Chief Conroy. Any questions? Yes, Councilmember Hall.
Just, where does the 41,000 come from? What is that? How is that arrived?
So on the last sheet, Exhibit A of your package, it's a percentage of our calls based on our current budget for the 911 Communications Center. And the average calls for service for National Park Service is about 1,487 per year. Our total call volume in the 911 Center is 140,000. So it was derived as a percentage of our budget.
Thank you. Any further questions, comments? Seeing none, we'll entertain a motion. Motion by Councilmember Beeson, second by Councilmember Johnson. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All right, thank you. Thank you, David. All right, item number 5, consideration to enter into a mutual agreement with Fulton County School System for speed enforcement operations. Chief Conroy.
So this is an agreement, we have 2 agreements coming up. This is the first one with the Fulton County School System. Fulton County School System requires us to enter into an agreement in order to further our school speed zone program. Currently, the schools are the ones who apply for the permits for the school speed zones, and they're operated by the local police jurisdiction. And the school has asked that we complete both of these agreements in order to obtain permits for having speed zones in additional school zones throughout the city. We broke this out from the other agreement on purpose just because there's a lot of discussion at the legislature downtown as to how things might change, and they may remove the schools from the permitting process for these devices. So if that is to occur, this will make it much easier to break out.
All right, thank you, Chief. Mayor Wilson.
Chief, can you just inform everybody a little bit about school zones and cameras, and if in fact this will add any cameras to any of the existing school zones?
So they're cameras and speed devices that are in the school zones. Currently in Roswell, we operate 2 school speed zone programs. Vickery Mill and Holcomb Bridge Middle School are the 2 where we operate this program. If you'll remember, we've done some presentations in the back where we evaluated all the school zones in the city, and those were the top 2 serious violators. One of them had over 1,800 violations per day of the speeding. And when I say speeding, that's over 10 miles per hour over the posted speed limit at the time. Yeah, so right now we only have this in 2 zones, so this would give us the ability to apply for permits for the rest of our school speed zones.
So are there cameras existing already in those other school zones?
So when you say cameras, we do have some cameras in those areas, but they're not equipped to record speed and to issue the citations.
On the existing school zones, are there cameras, is there camera systems in the existing 2 school zones, Vickery Mill and?
Yes, in those 2, yes, there are.
And we installed those, correct?
So a company, Red Speed, we contract with the company, they install them for us.
So the city of Roswell was
Correct.
responsible for that. And again, the city of Roswell would be responsible for installing cameras in the speed zones in these schools as well.
Yes, exactly.
School zones. And the reason we install cameras, they're very specific, very small lines of sight. Can you kind of explain that so people don't think, when they think about Big Brother, they want to know that, hey, the lines of sight is very specific to the speed activity and road activity where the cars are. So people, kind of take away the fear that people might have that this is a Big Brother activity.
Yeah, so these specific devices are focused on identifying the vehicle. They're not on identifying the driver of the vehicle. Part of the law is we issue the citation to the registered owner of the vehicle. The registered owner can file an affidavit and say, I was not driving the vehicle. They file that with the court. The presumption is they're responsible for it unless they file that affidavit. So we're not trying to identify the driver of the vehicle with these. They're focused on identifying the vehicle, the speed, time of day, and they take a short video clip of the vehicles that's speeding. Those files, the violator files, are then uploaded to a computer system, and one of our officers has to review each clip to determine if it is indeed a violation and chooses whether or not to issue a citation for those violations.
And the overwhelming majority, the focus is really speeding and trying to slow down people in school zones, correct?
Correct, absolutely. Speeding and the safety of our children, and that's one of the debates that's going on downtown right now is what hours are these activated? Currently, when the lights start flashing in the morning until they stop flashing in the evening, so it's presumed there are children at the school that entire time. Well, on days that school's in session, you can issue citations during that time period. So it is for the safety of the children.
And speaking about speeding and getting folks to slow down, and particularly the two schools that are currently in place, Vickery Mill and
Holcomb Ridge.
Holcomb Ridge. So what have we seen occur there in terms of being able to slow down folks in those two schools?
So we have seen reductions, and we have also identified that over 75% of the violators are from outside the city of Roswell.
That's interesting. And so, from your perspective as the chief law enforcement officer of the city of Roswell, putting in school zone cameras and having these is to do really two things, and those two things are slowing people down and improving the safety of the children that go to those schools. That's really what this is all about.
I'm going to add a third thing.
Okay.
So it's also a force multiplier. I would love to have an officer in every school zone all day. We do not have those resources. This is a force multiplier in that regard.
I think to your point is exactly. I think we would all love to have an armed a Roswell police officer, a uniformed Roswell police officer in those school zones. The reality is that's a fiduciary question or physical question that the city of Roswell elected officials have to make. And it's really outside that. This is the same group that moved from a part-time to a full-time fire department. This is the same group that created the best-in-class operating pay for the police. This is the best group. This is the same group that's committed to a operating principle of having the Roswell police as the best-paid police in the region. This is the same group that's committed significant financial resources of the city, believing that's what the people of Roswell want, to support public safety and very especially the police. But there is a practical reality is that there is a limitation on how much money you spend in terms of, we already have 162 badges. What do we have,
167.
167 badges, and just for the record, once again, we're the only city in the state of Georgia out of 587 cities for almost 2 years that has zero occupancy, zero vacancies on our entire police force. Thanks for your great leadership, Chief.
Thank you.
And that is really due to your great leadership and the great leadership of the senior leadership, Mr. Knighton and the rest of the team, but really Jim, to the culture you create. But there's also a commitment there of resources from the elected officials, and the elected officials do a great job. But I hear that too, and I just want to state this kind of as the mayor of the city is, I too would like to put more police on the ground and in the school zones, just like you said. But there's a practical reality from a dollar expenditure, and this is one way of addressing that is using technology. Not to become Big Brother, but in a very limited zone. If you're speeding above 10 miles per hour in a school zone, you will get a ticket, and the camera's going to capture that. And that's what we want folks to know. We want folks to be deliberate, intentional about slowing down, and then if you don't, you're going to get a ticket. And that includes if you're a city administrator driving through the zone, or a city attorney, or the police chief, or a city council person, doesn't matter. As you said, the camera's agnostic. It's just simply looking at the car, and it's looking at the license plate. And so I think sometimes these arguments can get much bigger and broader in terms of the scope and what it's really about. So I really appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you, Chief.
Yeah, thank you very much. I did want to add one point. One of our priorities is school zones. So the school zones that do not have cameras, our traffic unit deploys there daily. So in the morning and afternoon, they are in a school zone somewhere in the city when time allows, unless we're directing traffic.
Well, just to be clear, though, that's one traffic unit
Exactly.
at one school. It is not comprehensive. So that traffic unit is having to move to a different school every day.
Correct. That's why this would be a great force multiplier.
Thank you. Councilmember Sells.
So, I'm just trying to make sure I understand the time. You say the cameras are in operation from the time the lights go on until they go off in the evening?
Correct.
Okay, so even during the middle of the day, there's no reduced speed limit in that zone, but it's still operative during that time?
Correct. It will still flag if a vehicle is above 10 miles an hour above the posted speed limit. So when the lights are flashing, posted speed limits usually drop 10 miles per hour. So if it's 35, drops to 25 while they're flashing. It's back to 35 while they're not flashing. So if you were driving 45 or over, it will flag that as a violation during the daytime.
Right. And the cameras, if I recall, we have to get the permission of the Fulton County for any camera that we put up like this on any roadway, not just schools, isn't that correct?
So we have to get permission from several areas. We have to get GDOT approval to install these, as well as right now, if it's in a Fulton County school speed zone, we have to get approval through the schools. That's one of those items that's up before the legislature that likely will change because they have no part in the enforcement of this.
Okay, thank you.
All right, yes, Councilmember Johnson.
How is the revenue split between Fulton County Schools and the city of Roswell from the citations?
Fulton Schools is not a part of the revenue stream.
Thank you. Councilmember Morthland.
Are these cameras that we're talking about part of the rock system as well? The flock system, excuse me?
They can feed in, you asked me two questions, so. They can feed into the rock system. They currently do not, but we can access it if we're looking for vehicle license plates. Currently, they do not feed into it. I'm
Councilmember.
sorry, that is wrong. They currently do feed into it through Flock, yes. We did an upgrade, so.
Councilmember Hills.
Yes, so by moving this forward or agreeing to this, do you already have a plan to put these in front of every school in the city of Roswell? I mean, I understand the two schools that we have now are on Highway 92 and 9, which is like Atlanta Motor Speedway, depending on what day of the week it is and what time. So I get the high traffic on that, like Mountain Park Elementary or Hillside. Well, Hillside's on Scott, isn't it? Yeah, like.
So you're putting non-arterial.
Yeah, right. So like, is there a plan, or does this give carte blanche that once we do this, we can put them in where we want, or how does that work?
So, yeah, we can install, we still have to apply for the permit with the school's agreement as well as through GDOT. We also have to prove a need, so you have to do a survey to determine that there are violations in that school zone.
Okay.
And we've done that periodically over the years, and all of our school zones do qualify.
And a follow-up with
Public
the
schools.
money question, so the revenue goes to PD though, right? Or-
No, it goes to it's split, it goes to the general fund, and the vendor that operates the cameras gets a percentage. So we do not pay for these systems. Yeah, it goes to general fund. I'm sorry.
No.
I'm sorry. Let me correct that.
Yeah.
I thought it had to go to PD.
Thank you. That was my mistake. I was thinking of another program. This does go into a separate fund that must be spent on police initiatives.
It
I'm
is,
sorry.
it is, and it's not even a public safety fund, it's a police fund.
Correct, it's a police-only fund.
But it does, just to that issue, it does alleviate pressure on the general fund of money that you might appropriate out of the general fund to police or public safety. You now got internally, and they're still and the budget constrictions still ultimately belong to the elected officials. The budget's still yours. So the police can't arbitrarily collect the revenue, right? And then say, we're going to spend this on Chief Conroy's favorite pet project. So the budget process still has to be approved, even if it's underlying the police. But in fairness and to your question, you can't take it out of the police and go spend it on Parks and Rec.
Correct. And I think if you'll recall, several of the items that we've come before, the vest carriers for our officers is paid for out of that fund. I come before mayor and city council and we refresh that
But
every couple of years.
I'll give you an example. You could cut this a lot of different ways. We have committed to best-in-class pay for our police. And so this is an example that this can be used towards compensation as well. This is not meant to be a revenue-enhancing tool. The reality is it's meant to be a change of behavior tool. If the consequence is that it becomes a revenue-enhancing tool, you are trying to tell your fellow residents and community, and as the chief says, the people who are outside of your community, who are going through your schools, you gotta slow down. And if you don't slow down, there's a consequence, there's a financial consequence. And one of the things I wanted to address is, everyone in this room, all of us elected officials, all hear the same thing. And I live on a neighborhood road, just like the rest of you. We all have problems with speeding in our neighborhood roads. You know, it's not just 92 and 140 and Highway 9. Where the real problems for me, I think, in terms of quality of life are where we live, where our kids go to school. And, you know, one of the things I don't want, we have usually shut away from these discussions when we have these. Alpharetta did this for a reason. It's a quality of life issue. And I don't think I think this one just makes too much sense from the standpoint of, hey, Roswell, you gotta slow down. People visiting Roswell, you gotta slow down. It's simple technology. Yes, Will, and I'm glad you brought that up. The reality is that we have moved the measures, and I think the council, probably in its infinite wisdom, will continue to, is that, and we could show you some interesting, Sarah and I will look at some interesting crime statistics today. This city is incredibly blessed with almost zero stranger crime. We do have crime, but the crime continues to diminish in real numbers. And thanks to the chief's leadership and to the fantastic police force, and as the population, it's an interesting thing, as the populations continue to grow in the city, through the leadership of this police chief, crime is going down. And there is almost zero stranger danger crime in this city. Knock on wood. But part of that is public safety encompasses a lot of things, and I think part of it encompasses quality of life, not just crime. And speeding is a part of that. And speeding in neighborhoods and speeding around schools is a part of it. And I'm advocating, look, as a devotee of Ayn Rand, George Orwell, like, guys, I get it. I don't say these things just nilly-willy. As somebody who believes in the very strong ethos libertarian nature of our culture and our country. But I also know is I don't have enough enforcement. And I say I mean us. We can't put enough enforcement on the ground to change behavior. Not all the time. Some of that's going to come from us and our ethos and the things that we say are important. And we have to have the ability to do that behind them, to be able to back it up. Another thing, Will, is, yep, we're already using technology. Guys, you know that. We're already using technology. If a stolen car comes inside the city of Roswell, there's a high probability we know it pretty quickly. How do we know that? We don't know it because we got 150 cruisers on the street. We know it because we have technology. We're using either our technology or, more likely, private technology that's given us permission to view things that are going on. But this school zone thing, it is all our schools. It's about changing, it's about slowing folks down at the school zones. And for my 2 cents, I want to slow down Roswell. Guys, I can't tell you how much I think it's important. I think it's an ethos, culture, a character question that in our lives, in this city that we all love so much, that we say that it's all so important to us. It's important to slow down. And if we don't do it, it's not going to happen. And I think that's why we support the public safety and the police so strongly is we back their efforts. But at the end of the day, it's really on us. It's what we say, what we do would ultimately impact the efforts of the city. So I hear, and I want you to know, I'm very sensitive to libertarian concerns about Big Brother. I get that. But I don't want to confuse the issues because I can't put 150 cars on the street. I can't. I got 167 badges, and that's a big force, by the way. That's not a small force. That's a pretty good sized force.
Councilmember Johnson.
I just want to, you said something, and then the conversation moved on pretty quickly. We've surveyed every school zone in Roswell, and they would all qualify for the cameras. That's correct?
Yes, so, but if we do apply again, we have to do another survey.
But
and
previous
submit
surveys
that.
show that there's enough violations in every school zone in Roswell.
Correct, every school's unqualified.
Can I set up with a question?
Yeah, Mayor Wilson.
Chief, tell me what schools that your traffic car does not go to. Is there any schools that the traffic, you've got traffic.
Oh, the traffic unit?
Yeah, the traffic, is there a school that the traffic unit does not go to?
No, not a public school.
Not a public school?
Correct.
It's not a public school. Which one of them? They're everywhere. Doesn't matter.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're saying the same point. My point being is like, this is an issue.
Yes.
And I think I wanted to make it clear for those listening in future, when they look back at the minutes, when they get their fourth ticket, because you've gone too fast
That's
down
right.
Old Alabama or Highway 9 or 92 or King Road or whatever road we're on, that, this is an issue.
And
You need to slow down.
And it's agnostic, David. One of the things I like about technology is that it is agnostic. Yes, there is a Roswell police officer who checks the film, right? And it is going to come up, right? The information is going to come up. But that police officer, I will tell you, that's different than going up. We heard John Bradbury's story about getting written a ticket, in the home room. This is a much more agnostic process, to your point. Like, you're not, the city administrator of the city, the city council people of the city, nobody is, you've got to drive the speed limit, right? Or you're going to get a ticket.
I will give you one difference between an officer and this camera system that observes a violation in a speed zone while the lights are flashing. So while the lights are flashing, a Roswell police officer can write you for 1 mile per hour over the speed limit. So if it's 25, you're going 26. That Roswell police officer can write you a ticket. With the camera system, while the lights are flashing, must be 10 over. Our rule, we must be 10 over all other times of the day, except there is an exception in state law for school zones while the lights are flashing. So you do have a little more latitude with the camera system than an officer in person.
Councilmember Hall.
Just to follow up on that, since that's part of state law, can we program the cameras to do 1 or 2 over the flashing limit and write it there, or it's always 10?
So it's minimum 10 over. I don't want to announce where we have it set right now, but it is not set at 10 over.
Thank you.
Councilmember Sells.
You've clarified a couple times that, and I thought it was just because this particular agreement is with public schools, but you've clarified a couple times that it's only public schools. Is that, tell me, is that why? Is there some reason that it doesn't include any other?
So this agreement is focused on public schools. I've heard some questions about, hey, can we look at our private schools? This system can only be deployed where there is a GDOT approved school speed zone. Right now, none of our private schools have a GDOT approved school speed zone. So that might change in the future. I just want to make sure we were all clear on that page because I have heard that question come out in the past.
All right. Yes, Councilmember Hills.
Thank you. I want to say that I'm all about calming traffic as well. So I agree we have a problem and people love cutting through Las Vegas. But I also want to state for the record that there are a lot of people that are very concerned about putting in more cameras on our roads. And I'm one of them. I mean, it's concerning. I'm not all out. I'm just not all in yet. And the fact that this is 13 or 14 schools we're talking about, so -2, a dozen or 13 that are left that are public schools in the city. And I don't know if that includes independent, so that would probably be an extra one. Yeah, we probably need that on Mimosa. But it is concerning, and I think a lot of people need reassurance on whether it's really just capturing a license plate. There's a lot of disbelief for that. So, and I hear about that all the time, that it's not looking at the person driving, it doesn't know who you are, it's just catching the speed. I mean, there's a lot of distrust. I think across the board, and I think that's nonpartisan. I mean, and I talked to a gentleman right 2 months in from after being elected, and he lived on the east side, and he was hopping mad about getting a ticket in front of Holcomb Bridge Middle. And he's going on, and how do I get out of it, and the times are wrong, it shouldn't be there, the kids are, butts in seats, they shouldn't have it then. And he said, and then I got another ticket, and I said, well, what was that for? And he goes, well, it was a school zone. I said, dude, how close do you live to Holcomb Middle? He goes, well, this was over by that school on Highway 9 and, near Canton Street. I said, Vickery Mill? And my response was, sir, I think you have a lead foot. So I'm acknowledging we do have a big traffic problem as far as, a speeding problem. But I do want to acknowledge that there is a lot of concern about the number of cameras through the city. And so while I want the same results, I think, I don't want to speak for everybody, but at least I'm hearing the mayor, I want the same thing. I want that calmed down and make it safer and, I'm in that, is it safe or is it surveilled? So I'm just speaking for a lot of people that I've talked to, even recently. So just floating that out there as a genuine concern.
Absolutely.
Councilmember Sells?
So asking for a friend, of course. You're in the picture. So just so you know, yeah, you're clearly.
All right. Any further question or comment regarding this item? Councilmember Beeson?
To address Councilmember Hill's concern, and I'll just ask this as a question outright both to the chief and to the mayor. This MOU only allows us to enter within an agreement with Fulton County Schools in order to place cameras, but it doesn't stipulate that we have to stipulate cameras at all schools. It just doesn't give us a short list of only these 3 or 4 schools. Instead, it's just more of an open-ended memorandum of understanding. So with that being said, if you do have hesitations or concerns moving forward, we're not committing in this instance to all of the schools. It's just allowing us to make that agreement moving forward if mayor and council so decide to choose. Is that correct?
Yeah, this has nothing to do with the number of schools.
Okay, so to address your concern, this isn't committing us to having to do all of the schools or any of the schools. It's really just an agreement moving forward if mayor and council so decide to move forward.
Mayor Wilson?
Sarah, I appreciate the point. I think it's a good point. I will tell you, as someone, I think as everybody here, in my 62 years of life, I've experienced a lot of creep. Creep. And so what I want to do is be crazy honest about the design and the intent and what is going to happen. If the chief in his infinite professional wisdom says, hey, there's cameras going here, but there's not cameras going here, that's his professional judgment. And the professional judgment of the police, which I trust. But I do think it's important to flush out concerns to see whether or not we go forward. I really do. Because I think there are some libertarian concerns. And I'm sensitive to those. I think the chief is sensitive to those. I know the chief will. I think the chief is very sensitive to libertarian concerns. I don't think the chief willy-nilly is interested in a police state. And there's a lot of ways we could cut this conversation. And I think like a lot of conversations, I think they overlap and they get a little confusing. This community highly supports its public safety and highly supports its police. There's a lot of reasons, for a lot of reasons. The police work very well in the city because there's a high level of support. Police work very well in the city. There's a high level of political support, there's a high level of public support, and it just so happens they're highly competent, right? There's a high level of professionalism with police. A lot of things work together, and a lot of communities that don't work, and so it helps to keep things going in the way that this particular culture or society in the city of Roswell is running. So I think it's important that when you do make, because this behind this, we got 2 MOUs, but behind this is, you got to understand what is going to happen. Like, you are making a decision. You may not be making it directly tied today exactly, but you are. You are voting on permission of putting cameras in school zones for the police to write tickets. I mean, that's ultimately, whether it happens in every school or not, you're going to give them permission to make that decision. And I think that's important. And if there's a philosophy like, well, hell no, we're not going to do that, right? Then flush it out. Forgive my language, but you need to flush that out. I'm comfortable. As I said, you know, as a devotee of Ayn Rand's, like, and I'm very comfortable with this, because there is a balance. And when you choose to live in a society and a culture together, there's a contract, and you weigh those decisions. And you make trade-offs. And I do think that the city of Roswell's quality of life is impacted by speeding. And I think that we are bringing several different approaches to address that. This is one, and it's specific to where our children go to public school. And I don't think it's asking a lot. I don't think this is not Big Brother in your bedroom. This is not Big Brother in your office. This is, yep, if you violate the law, i.e. you speed, you're going to get a ticket in this small little area. Not driving all over the cities of Roswell, but if you drive through a school zone and you're speeding above a certain limit, the camera's going to catch you, and you're going to get a ticket. Now, I don't find that a constitutional infringement. I broke the law, and technology caught me, and technology says in the city, and the government, this local government saying, yep, you're going to pay for that. You're not going to jail, not going to lose your car, not going to lose your license. You're going to pay a fine. Trying to say, hey, would you please slow down? Would you pay attention when you're going through the school zone? I don't think that's a constitutional infringement. I think that's just being smart.
Councilmember Sells.
Thank you. So I'll play Aldous Huxley to your Ayn Rand there.
Fair enough.
It never, you know, this creep we're talking about, I appreciate the forewarning for sure, but the creep never is the first move.
No doubt.
Never the first move. It's always the 10th move.
No doubt.
And so I would say that we as an elected body and to our citizens, you should vote wisely, because the creep comes when the governance breaks down and we stop paying attention to these things. And so therefore, you know, obviously this is a civic good, no question about that. I don't think that's what we're arguing about. But what we are grappling with is that many of us believe that it is very easy to let the genie out of the bottle, and it is very, very hard to get him back in.
100%.
And so I think good governance is the answer to that, and a
Amen, brother.
wise counsel is the answer to that.
Well, and particularly, where creep is really dangerous is public safety. That's why you hear me behind the scenes, right? You know, the chief knows this, I love the chief. As you guys know, I think we have the best police chief in America. It's a civilian government, right? So the people who run the government are the people directly accountable to people. 7 of us. 7 people ostensibly are responsible for the decision-making in the city of Roswell. We're responsible for creating policy. And to your point, it is very easy to create creep in an administrative form. And it's very seductive and dangerous, by the way, in the hands of us, right, to continue to increase power in public safety. I mean, you just have to be honest about that. You have to be very judicious about decisions in the area of public safety, because public safety has the most important role in terms of, i.e., the compact of safety and enforcing that and keeping that. But there is always that balance. Like, we are a civilian government, and you have to keep checks and balances on your power. You literally do, and on the power of your public safety. And so I don't treat lightly what you're saying. I think they're legitimate, like it's legitimate concerns. And I just want to be honest, like, I'm always very concerned now, so I brought up creep. You do one thing, and the next thing you know, another thing happened, and you say, what the hell happened to my liberty? What the hell happened to my decision-making? I've seen a lot of that, guys, in my lifetime. So this is like, I think most of us are familiar with that. So your point is incredibly well taken. And if you guys decided in your infinite wisdom, like, no, we don't think it's in the best interest of the people of the city of Roswell to allow cameras in school zones, we think that's a bad idea, I would understand. I would disagree with you, but I would understand where you're coming from. I think it's displaying wisdom because you're attacking an issue that you have pretty specific control over. But the questions, I think your question is incredibly well put, Alan.
Councilmember Beeson.
Question for Chief Conroy, and you may or may not know the answer to this. Do you by any chance have any data or analysis of other jurisdictions or where it's been studied of if these traffic enforcement cameras in school zones have successfully acted as a detriment to speeding, or decreased the likelihood of speeding for enforcement purposes?
Yes, I've seen studies that show that. I believe our study shows it. I would have to look at the numbers.
All right. Yeah. Councilmember Hills.
Switch gears a little bit. Chief, do you mind telling me how, and this is me not knowing, I'm admitting my ignorance here. Why does GDOT weigh in on the approval on some of these if they're on non-state roads?
That's just part of the state law, is GDOT must approve all school speed zones.
Private or public?
Correct. Much like they regulate much of what we do, all speed zones, speed limits throughout the state.
That, we think about how ridiculous it is. Like, we've done some clever things the last 2 years, Lee. I will point out to you, Mimosa. That was pretty clever on this part. Thank you, Randy. Pretty clever on this. Thank you, Chief. Pretty clever on, thank you, David. Because we're limited in our sovereign city often by what speed limit we can post, guided by the directive of the state.
Councilmember Hills.
Sorry, wasn't finished. Thank you for that clarification. I also want to just say, for anybody listening, and of course my colleagues here, I'm not naive about the cameras. I think it was 4 years ago, 5 years ago, Fulton County Schools put in the exact same camera service that's in Hartsfield Airport. So, Mayor, the logo on your sleeve, the minute you enter the campus at Roswell High School, you can be spotted for that logo on your sleeve anywhere in the school. It's just a reality check, to your point, Councilmember Sells. So that doesn't have anything to do with traffic, but I'm well aware, and that's where the concern comes. Like now we've got people creeping and peeping, at our kids throughout all of the Fulton County schools. I don't know what Fellowship or BT or some of our alternative and hybrid schools have. I have no idea. I haven't really checked. I know some have different things, but and I know that safety is a concern, and that's the number one reason that I'm going to say it this way, that they say they have it. But it's a real concern. So I want to tell you I'm not naive on that. I am about some of the GDOT stuff, but anyway, it's real. I mean, you can get away with murder on King Road, not inside Roswell High School. I mean, it's Hartsfield-Jackson security cameras in all of Fulton County schools. So take it for what it is. I'm not putting an opinion on it. I'm just saying it's there. It's here. Thank you for indulging me.
Councilmember Beeson.
Completely hearing the concerns of fellow council members. I too am hyper aware of the task that we're presented to us as lawmakers and representatives of the city, and balancing your personal liberties, but also your personal safety. That said, I'd be interested in moving this forward to a public city council meeting with the understanding that we would be able to get feedback from the public either between now and then, and be able to collaborate with fellow electeds, especially with Mayor Wilson, to understand the larger big picture goal of what we're looking to accomplish with this, but also cautioning fellow council members as well to recognize at least the parameters of what we're discussing for the item tonight is specifically the MOU with Fulton County Schools, and again, not dictating where, when, how many, what we're doing, but purely just a contractual agreement to allow us, if we decided to move forward, completely understanding Mayor Wilson's point that by paving the way for this, it does open the door to make these decisions. But with the understanding that we as an elected body can come to those decisions possibly at a later time.
Thank you. All right, any further discussion or question? Was that a motion, Councilmember Beeson?
Yeah, let's
And a motion.
I love it. Segue, motion it.
All right, motion by Councilmember Beeson. Do we have a second? Second by Councilmember Johnson. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All right, that passes unanimously. This will move forward. All right, item number 7, consideration to enter into a mutual agreement with Fulton County School System General Response and Jurisdiction. Item number 6, Item number 6, consideration to enter into a mutual agreement with Fulton County School System General Response and Jurisdiction. Chief Conroy.
So this is, as the city administrator mentioned, this agreement is specific to general response and jurisdiction between the Roswell Police Department and the Fulton County School System Police Department. The Fulton County Schools has this agreement with all the other municipalities in their jurisdiction, and they've asked us to sign it also. This talks about our agreed-upon emergency response assistance. It clarifies operational components of both agencies, as well as partnerships to further enhance the safety of our public schools within the city of Roswell. We have a great relationship with the Fulton County School Police. Their chief, Mark Zaborski, used to work for the Roswell Police Department, so we have a tremendous relationship that we have had over the years. There's just a couple highlights in here. It talks about jurisdiction, and this is actually taken straight from state law, is that Fulton County School law enforcement personnel shall have the same law enforcement properties on school property, including the power of arrest, as the Roswell Police Department. So right now, we have that same jurisdiction. They have the same jurisdiction we do on school property, and it is taken straight from state law. 2.1.2 says that we will work cooperatively, respond to emergency situations on school property, which we would do anyway. It says the district and the police department shall each appoint a primary point of contact to maintain ongoing communications. I have a monthly meeting with the Fulton County School Police Chief, so that already occurs as well. It also says the police department will communicate as soon as practical with the Fulton County School System concerning community-based emergencies that may impact school operations. If you call 911 from one of our schools, the Roswell Police 911 Center is going to answer that call. 911 does not directly ring to the Fulton County School Police, so this just says we will notify them as soon as we're advised of an emergency on one of the school properties. They also want to specify that police department routine presence on school ground is welcomed and appreciated with communications to Fulton County schools. So they just want us to notify them if we're going to be on their campuses for any reason. That we will cooperate in furtherance of obtaining grants supporting a safe school environment. And that is all the highlights of this. It's basically everything we do today, it just reduces it to writing so there's clarity on all parts.
All right, thank you, Chief. Questions or comments for Chief Conroy? Councilmember Johnson.
Get in on the second try now. I'm gonna get on the first try eventually. Do we right now make routine visits to Fulton County schools?
Correct. They may request us to come speak to classes, and we're there.
Would this be considered like, when it's a routine presence, does that mean like patrolling or staying at the school?
So it also encompasses, so after hours, there's not many school resource officers. So if there's a burglary alarm at a school, it's often more that we can respond there before they can get any officer near the location.
Will this affect your staffing if the schools start requesting your presence more and more? Would we need to hire more officers?
No.
All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments regarding this item? Yes, Councilmember Hills.
Thank you, Mr. Knighton. Thank you, Chief. I know you've worked really hard with Dr. Looney and the school board on this for as long as I've known you in this role. So I know that took a lot of work, and not every school has the same needs or the same desires, but I believe it's pretty uniform across Fulton County schools, particularly in Roswell. Back to the cameras, does this also include where PD, if there's a Roswell Police, if there's an emergency at one of the schools, I don't know if it's in this or if it's an alternate agreement where the school can give access temporarily to the Roswell Police Department in order to assist in an emergency at any of the schools?
So, yeah, we already have that access. It is not part of our Roswell Crime Center, but we do have separate access.
That's not in this MOU, that's just.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct, that already exists.
But that doesn't run 24/7, it's only in times of need with permission, correct? Or how does that work?
So I think you might be confusing two different systems.
It's possible.
Correct. So
It's possible I'm confused.
So we have access, only a limited number of logins have access to the Fulton County school system. What you're thinking of is part of the Roswell Crime Center and a trial that we did with Blessed Trinity School. So Blessed Trinity has their own private camera system. They have opted to allow us access to it. So today any of our officers can see all the external cameras at Blessed Trinity. They have employees that have an app on their phone that sends an alert that can give us access. It also contacts the 911 center and says, there's an alert at Blessed Trinity. Then it activates our access to the interior cameras.
Okay.
It's a model that I think we should follow. Fulton County does not have that capability at the moment of limiting our access to those cameras. Therefore, we limit who has logins.
Thank you. Thanks for clearing.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Borthland.
Since we're talking about this MOU, I'm looking at 2.1.2 Emergency Response A. Parties will work cooperatively to respond to an emergency situation on school property. The first law enforcement entity on the scene will address the critical incident and shall have control. While we're doing this, would you like to clarify it and pretty that language up to where it makes the statement that Roswell's in control as soon as we show up? Is there a need for that, or are you comfortable with this going forward, that the first person on the scene is going to be in control until set forth?
So as you've seen, trying to think of the active shooter situations that have gone on in some of the schools and have gone wrong, we need this because I know how the Roswell police will respond to a situation. Sure. And we need to have that control of our people once we arrive on scene. I don't want to have our folks, and we do cross-train with the Fulton County School Police, but I'll use an example. If we have set aside a ready team that's going in to confront an active shooter, I don't want a school police official to come in and say, no, don't go in there. I think that's kind of what we saw in Uvalde. We want to be able to go in and do what we are trained and have to do.
So my question is, would we want to put that in this language right here? As soon as we show up, we're in control? Because as this reads, the first person on property is the one that's in control until it's determined after communication, after the situation is understood.
Yeah, see, I read it that we're in control and they cannot come and take control.
That's what I'm talking about right here is the way I'm reading this is if the Fulton County School policeman is on property first, they are in control until.
I think we could make that change.
The reason I pull that forward is because the fire department, if we, as the Roswell Fire Department, show up to a community.
Mountain Park is not I mean, that's stuff, right?
Correct.
Yes. So that's where I was going, is when we show up to take care of the fire, we don't need their chief getting in the way of and trying to direct our people. That's
Correct.
what I was digging in on.
Yeah, and I think we just looked at it from different angles, so we have the same belief, yes.
So what would be the language moving forward for section 2.1.2A? Is it that the parties will work cooperatively to respond to emergency situations on school property? Roswell Police Department will have control until command and operations have been established?
Meantime, Mayor Wilson.
Well, I love your thinking. Listen to the police chief, be very clear about this. Mountain Park example is relevant. Can I suggest perhaps the city attorney weighs in on the interpretation?
So, I believe, like Will, right now it's unclear, so I think we need to put in that before we bring it to council and make sure that we say that the Roswell Police Department, once we are there and established, have control of this. That's what we.
Can I know Chief pretty well. You got a concern there, I bet, not on the language that it may get rejected based upon language?
No.
Okay.
No, we do alert training, which is active shooter response, and I want to make sure we mirror the language that is in that training. So but I can get with David to make sure that's in there. I just want to make sure, because that's how everybody is trained. All of our North Fulton partners, including the school police, have gone through the same training. I want to use the language that's in there.
But to Sarah's point, to Will's point, like, you don't want a repeat of Uvalde,
Oh, absolutely not.
right? Where you want to make sure that somebody has command and control. We're very familiar with this in the city of Roswell. We deal with this issue a lot with the sister city that we love and think very highly of, and sometimes you have clarity about command and control in public safety situations.
And I do want to reiterate, just for those that are watching and the public, is I believe any of my officers would find that as an unlawful order and would disregard an order not to go in and address an active shooter.
Thank you, Chief. And I think that Councilmember Morthland Beeson, Mayor, that addresses the concern for Chief Conroy and City Attorney Davidson to work on that language prior to it coming forward. Is that for everybody? Yes, Councilmember Beeson.
Chief Conroy's point, as long as the language addition is not a hindrance to response times, I'm completely fine with that addition. It makes sense. Thank you, Councilman Northland.
Okay, all right, good. All right. Any further question or comment regarding this item? All right, we're looking for a motion. Motion by Councilmember Beeson. We have a second? Second by Councilmember Morthland. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All right, it passes unanimously and we'll move forward. Thank you. Item number 7, consideration to enter into a mutual agreement with MARTA Police Department, general response and jurisdiction. Chief Conroy.
All right, again, this is another agreement with another police agency. The MARTA police chief contacted me, said they're reviewing their files and said we have not signed an MOU in over 10 years with the MARTA Police Department. While they do not have a large footprint in the city of Roswell, their buses currently do operate, and in the future there could be some facilities for MARTA that are within the city. So this also does the agreed upon response assistance, clarifies operational components for both agencies, as well as partnerships to offer, enhance the safety of our community. The highlights here are police responsibility. MARTA Police has jurisdiction over MARTA vehicles, including trains and buses, MARTA property, if there is any in the city, including rail stations, parking lots, buildings, and facilities owned or leased by MARTA. I think presently all we have are vehicles that drive through our city. So if there's a crime that occurs on a MARTA bus, the MARTA police would investigate that. If it's an emergency, we would respond first, make sure the situation is calm, and then the MARTA police would conduct an investigation of the crime on the bus. Talks later in section 12D that our SWAT teams will train together so we know how to respond. That's more for the trains, but some of these new buses that are coming that they've just ordered, the extra long buses, are going to take some special training and understanding to know the capabilities and how to enter those buses. And those actually were the only 2 highlights that I made in there.
All right, thank you, Chief Conroy. Questions or comments regarding this item? Councilmember Morthland.
Number 1, referencing what we just talked about. Chief Law Enforcement Officer for Roswell shall be the primary law enforcement officer for the city of Roswell and shall be in command of the overall law enforcement operations there within. There you go. Right back to what we were just talking about.
Thank you, Councilmember Morthland. Any further questions or comment? Seeing none, we'll entertain a motion. Motion by Councilmember Beeson. We have a second by Councilmember Johnson. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All right, we will move this item forward as well. Item number 8, consideration to enter into a mutual agreement with the City of Smyrna, housing of prison inmates. Chief Conroy.
All right, this is my final item of the evening. So this is authorization to enter into an agreement with the City of Smyrna for housing inmates. Presently, we do have the MOU with the Fulton County Sheriff's Office that we can house inmates at the North Fulton Annex. While we do receive service there, sometimes there are challenges. We do have a cap on the number of inmates that we can have per day. That cap is at 13. We have hit that cap a few times, therefore we cannot arrest people on Roswell charges after that. One of the other challenges we've had is if the nurse does not report to work at the North Fulton Annex, we cannot arrest people on Roswell charges. We've had a couple instances where we have, another jurisdiction has stopped somebody on a Roswell warrant for an outstanding Roswell violation through our courts. We transport them back here, find out that the nurse did not show up to jail. We have to return that person to where they were arrested and release them so they can be caught again later. This will give us another option for when those occur. For a while, we were told that the Smyrna jail was going to close. If you remember those discussions, they have decided to remain open, and they reached out to us and asked if we were still interested in participating. I think we would get tremendous service. Also at the Smyrna jail, the only difference is we pay $65 a head. At the North Fulton Annex, we would pay $70 a head at the Smyrna jail. For the impact of that, we are currently averaging $2,400 per month. This would be, which is $28,800 as average per year. If we went solely with Smyrna, which we would still do a hybrid, that would go up $2,200 per year is what the financial impact would be.
All right. Thank you, Chief Conroy. Councilmember Hall.
Is there a limit to the amount of people we can bring to Smyrna?
So this does not have a limit in there. We do have a limit. They did ask us if we do a large operation, if we're going to arrest 100 people, they would like advance notice to have staff on hand.
Thank you.
They were very accommodating. They do not utilize a nurse at the Smyrna jail for
They're
that.
looking for business, huh?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Yes, we visited there twice, and they had a lot of empty space. They do not. They do not.
Wonderful. Yeah, Chief. Yeah, Chief, if you were planning to arrest 100 people, I think we would like to know too. All right, any further question or comment regarding this item? All right, okay. With that, we'll seek a motion. Motion by Councilmember Beeson, second by Councilmember Hills. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All right, passes unanimously. Thank you, Chief.
All right, thank you.
Under Public Works, item number 9, consideration to purchase and replace City Hall air handler units and chillers. Mr. Watson.
That is quite a show to come after, sorry.
All right.
The purpose of this request is to purchase and replace 4 air handler units and 2 chillers here at City Hall. The air handler units and the chillers are original to this building, which this month marks the 33rd anniversary of this building. In 2015, the city conducted a facilities condition assessment and showed that both the air handler units and the chillers had about 4 years of remaining life. And that would have been in 2019. And in the past 4 years, we've spent quite a bit of money in terms of Band-Aid repairs to the chillers and air handler units. Just to kind of give you an idea, this year alone, we've probably, this fiscal year, so we're not even through the full fiscal year, probably about $83,000 has been spent on just maintenance and repairs of the chillers and air handler units, and about 25 to 30 different requests that have come in to fix them. So they're definitely in dire need of replacement. In 2021, the city evaluated whether or not we could refurbish the units, because that would have saved money. We can't. They do need to be replaced. And in 2023, we looked at different types of systems that we could replace the system, the whole system, and we found that the most cost-effective solution would be actually to replace like for like. There's going to be quite a bit of savings. These new units that we're putting in probably going to save at least 30% on our energy costs just for the units themselves, plus all the costs that we're putting into the Band-Aid repair. And the reason we're pushing this now is the supply chain
for HVAC units is pretty high, especially when you talk about chillers. And we're looking at about a 32-week lead time from the time that we can issue a purchase order to the manufacturer. Staff is recommending the replacement of the chillers and air handler units, and we would be using Trane Technologies. I'll take any questions that you all may have.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. Questions of mayor and council? Councilmember Morthland.
What was the difference between going in brand new as compared to just replacing dollar amount?
So we would be replacing them in this hole. So
A brand new system altogether.
that's what this is.
Right. Well, this is a.
This is a completely brand new system, correct. We cannot well, we could refurbish it, but it's not going to go the full length of what a brand new system would be.
So we're replacing the pneumatic controls?
We're replacing the entire system, correct.
All right, good. Well, that got me in a better mind spot. Reason I was saying is because I was told by our operations group here that pneumatic is obviously a dated technology. Trane only has one person on staff that is still having the expertise on how to come in and address the pneumatic technology nowadays, because everything has changed over digital, everything is chip components. So, very good. That answers my question.
Councilmember Hills.
Thank you, Mr. Knighton, and thank you, Councilmember Morthland, for teeing this up. Does this have anything to do with the heating? This is just strictly cooling, right?
What we are replacing here is all the stuff that brings air into the building. We still have some things that we need to do with the internal ductwork and how to control that, so this is not what you're referring to. Not to be funny, but if we don't replace these, we're going to have a much bigger issue with the heat.
Okay.
Much bigger.
Well, I want to report, when I came in to work today, it was hotter than a $2 pistol in my office, and the thermostat is in Councilmember Morthland's office, and I have on this device here a photograph of where the thermostat was set at 90 degrees, and I can tell you it was working in my office, so thank you for that test. That was really, really good. So I just wanted to share that and say thank you for the check.
Councilmember Sells.
So, speaking of $2 pistols, would you talk about the budget implications of this and how we're going to pay for it?
Apparently, I figured out where some of our cost savings is going to be. So the cost to replace the air handler units and the chillers will be $1,684,000. We have $1,060,000-ish in this fiscal year that we would apply towards that, so that can get us our PO. That will get the materials as well as the parts, and then this project will be completed in next year, fiscal year 25.
Out of the maintenance budget?
Out of our budget that comes out of facilities, correct.
Councilmember Beeson.
So just to clarify with Councilmember Sells, that there's absolutely no budget amendment correlated with this. It's balanced between the end of our FY24 budget, and then the rest of it will be allocated in FY25?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So we have planned ahead in this during budget season last week, right?
We have for several years, and it's just been getting pushed off because it wasn't until recently that the amount of money that we're really putting into it is going up quite a bit.
Right.
We should be, grateful. We got almost 5 years extra out of the useful life.
This thing's been impressive how long it's lasted.
But we're very nervous, especially we've got another 32 weeks plus the actual install time before this. So we've got some.
Could spend that $100,000 at least.
Well, nothing's going to get cheaper over time, so I understand the timeliness.
Well, the PO locks it in.
The PO locks in correct. So we do have a proposal from Trane that is turnkey. So we're locking in prices now, which is another reason that we want to get this moving forward.
Mayor Wilson.
To that point, Justin, so you're still going to have to make a budget decision, right? So you've got $1 million in this year's budget, which is being counted towards this, to be able to get the purchase order. That's why he's bringing it to you. But you're still going to have to appropriate the money in the FY25 budget.
Yep.
So it will be coming before you soon. Just to let you know. So he's asking you for a little permission for it. Yeah, I got $1 million of the $1.6 million, and you've heard him say, look, I've already spent $100,000 of money out of my basically maintenance plan. And I'm gonna spend another $100,000 next year, which you need to account for. And that's something that's gonna cover into the following fiscal year as well. So just FYI. And I can't believe your thermostat works. That's amazing. Like, I'm impressed. I would be so happy if that's the most consistent theme in the building is the thermostats actually don't work. As you know, in my office, everybody comes to mess with it all the time. It has no correlation to heat or cold. It's, what? You've been working on CPACE too long. We gotta stop you. We gotta stop you.
All right. All right, any further comments or questions regarding this item? Seeing none, we'll entertain a motion. Motion by Councilmember Sells, second by Councilmember Hills. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All right, that passes unanimously and we'll move forward. Item number 10, consideration to award a task order with Star White House for Riverside Park construction documents in an amount not to exceed $599,785, Mr. Hudson and Mr. Levin.
Mr. Chairman, did y'all announce the PAC 135 Mountain Park Elementary earlier? Okay.
I was ready to announce.
Okay. I'm sure they're at home watching on TV.
I'm sure they are. That's probably part of their assignment, yes. Mr. Watson and Mr. Levin.
Continue, or do you want to do the PAC?
No, that's why I'm,
Okay.
sorry, Mr. Watson.
Thank you, no problem, sir. So the purpose of this item is to award a contract to complete the construction documents for Riverside Park, which is part of the River Parks Master Plan. Star White House is a landscape architecture firm that staff has worked with since 2020 on various River Parks projects, including Riverside Park. Star White House actually developed a schematic concept early on, which is in a previous task order. This task order will allow Star White House to complete the construction documents, which will be all the way through the bidding process. And staff recommends awarding the task order to Star White House in an amount of $599,785.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. Councilmember Hall.
And I think we discussed this last week, but does this include the big board schematic that will be placed at the park for the public to see?
That is correct. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. But yes, this does include signage for the river parks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions or comments regarding this item? Mayor Wilson?
And just to Christine's point, just to let them know of the $600,000 contract, it's a little bit over $10,000 for the signs. And they're 4x8s, if I think, 4x8s. And 4 foot by 8 foot. 4 foot, yeah, 4 foot by 8 foot. Yeah.
Councilmember Hall.
Is there some flexibility if the 4x8 is deemed not large enough?
I'm sure we could size the printing if we need to go larger.
Yeah, I think that, Mr. Mayor, I think the cost that you were pointing out, I don't know if that includes materials or if it is just for the design and making sure that the image is correct. And to Mr. Leatherman's point, if we need to scale it up, if it's not working on the 4x8.
Says production and installation.
So it does, okay.
So, and that looks like it includes graphics, so it's part of graphics development as well.
Correct.
I would hope for $10,000 we could get 5 signs, right?
And also,
Thank you, sir, yes.
Yeah.
just as a clarification, this is a sign that we saw when we were on our trip in Greenville, and something that Greenville does on their projects. And that one particular sign, what was the size of that sign in front of the hotel that was under production, just as a point of reference?
It's like a 10 by 12 or something.
Yeah, it was at least probably 50 foot wide and maybe a foot tall, something like that.
So that was 6 by 15, and we're talking 4 by 8.
You're saying that's what you'd like,
Yes.
right?
I would like a 6 by 15.
There you go. So I think, we haven't talked to David, Alan, Sarah wasn't with us on that trip, but Lee was, sorry, Mr. Chairman. Forgive me for not making acknowledge. we all fell in love with that 6x15 sign, for a lot of reasons. So I'm hearing Christine saying, give me a 6x15 sign, right? And if it costs a little extra money, it's worth it, right? And by the way, that's, I think, not just on the public works side, so I think it's something we want to be working on the private side in terms of signage, like every project of some consequence needs to have beautiful signage like that, that's very clear about what's going on.
It informs the public, it provides a timeline, it's aesthetically pleasing, so many benefits. It was really a great thing we learned from the city of Greenville, one of the things that we learned from them.
Thank you. Duly noted. And do we have any further questions or comments regarding the item? Yes, Councilmember Sells.
One sign, we got $10,000 not for one sign.
No, it's for three.
6.4 technically, if I read this correctly.
It's installation of 3 signs, and, you know, what we'll do is, just so that we can continue moving forward in terms of being able to get this task order issued, we will work with Star White House, and we will make sure that the 6x15 signs are included in the proposal.
Mayor Wilson.
Sorry, Brian and Jeff, just a clarification, because I see the 3 signs in here as well, I saw that, but I saw Riverside Park, Don White Park, East San Phase 1, and the Riverside Road RDOT project. So I'm thinking, that's 4, even though it says 3.
4 projects that would be shown on one sign.
I beg your pardon. Thanks for the correction.
No, it's a little confusing, just number of projects that are going on.
Okay,
All right.
No reason to have a larger sign.
there you go.
All right. Thank you. All right. Yes, Councilmember Johnson.
Sorry for the confusion. So are we going to one big sign, or are we doing 3 big signs?
3 big signs.
3 big signs.
That's what I hear. Councilmember Hall, you want 3 big signs, right? That's what you want.
I wasn't in Greenville, and 16x15, or 6x15 is a big sign.
I'll text it to you.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm fine with it, as long as it's not, you know.
$8,000 per, you know, it doesn't escalate the cost crazy.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll get it included.
Further comments or questions? All right, we'll entertain a motion. Motion by Councilmember Sells, and second by Councilmember Morthland. Any further discussion? That motion, of course, includes the notation about signage. Motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor? All right, thank you. All right. And the last item is listed, item number 11, consideration to award a task order with barge for Bullock Hall Pond construction documents in an amount not to exceed $249,850. Mr. Watson.
Thank you, Mr. Knight. This task order is for Barge Design Solutions to provide a full set of services in developing construction documents for the Bullock Hall Regional Detention Pond. Support provided under this includes a number of items that are listed in your packet. Barge is one of City of Roswell's standby engineering consultants and has provided engineering support on a number of projects to the city in the past. Staff recommends awarding this task order to Barge Design Solutions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Watson. Further questions or comments regarding this item? Excuse me. Seeing none, we'll entertain a motion. We'll entertain a motion. Motion by Councilmember Johnson.
Who am I and why am I here?
Motion by Councilmember Johnson, second by Councilmember Sells. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor? All right, thank you very much. This does conclude the Public Safety and Public Works, which one is it? Public Safety and Public Works Committee meeting for March 12th, 2024. We'll entertain a motion for adjournment. Motion by Councilmember Johnson, second by Councilmember Beeson. All in favor? Thank you very much.